Hey, what is up, guys? The Strong Boys 19 here. So this is another list that I had randomly decided to do because some of you guys may be asking for this, and I am here to do it before you're going to ask me to do this. So here you go. This is the top 10 worst albums of all time. Now, before I jump right into it, this is all my opinion, and you may think to yourself, why isn't this album or that album in this list? Do I really need to listen to a very bad album that you hated and that I would probably hate and just force it into the list? It doesn't work like that for me. So these are the albums that I have listened to that I consider to be the worst. Of course, there are albums that you may think is worse than the ones I will mention, but this is just all what I think. So, honorable mentions: The Shank's Philosophy of the World and Metallica's Saint Anger. Those are the honorable mentions. Let's go! So, I'll try my best not to go on too long on these albums, if I can. At number 10, we have Slayer, Diabolus in Musica. Diabolus in Musica from Slayer is a very, very weak and boring album to listen to, and 10 of the songs were written originally by Jeff Hanneman, who I give a lot of respect for what he tried to achieve on this album, but at the same time, when I listen to it, everything just sounds really mindless and, directionless from the songwriting. And the production of this album is really not that strong either. Same with the lyrical content. There are some really good, impressive guitar solos, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't really gel to me at all because of its really repetitive, recycled guitar riffs and the progressions that does not have strong delivery at all. At number 9, we have Morbid Angel, Illu Divinum Insanus. And I am glad that they have come back with a brand new album, finally, because this album, it is really, really bad, but it's a complete laughingstock at the same time. I mean, Morbid Angel with Industrial does not gel together at all. And the sadder part is that this is the last Morbid Angel album with David Vincent as the frontman and vocalist in the band. His vocals are laughable at best, and with lyrics that are absolutely atrocious, and the production is awful, overproduced. Even the technical death metal sound just doesn't make the album any better. I mean, those songs are sounding okay, but the drums are just too much for me to cope with. Same with the guitars, and the industrial elements are all over the place, and I just cannot even bear to force myself to listen to this album anymore. At number 8, this is a comeback album, and this is the one that is the most expensive album ever made, and it took 10 years to make. You obviously know which one is coming. This is Guns N' Roses with Chinese Democracy. Chinese Democracy, for me, is a failed attempt of a comeback album, period, because this is really, obviously, not Guns N' Roses. This is more of a very, very melodramatic, dated, tasteless solo album from Axl Rose, and the songs themselves may sound okay, but at the same time, they just go nowhere near as strong as they tried to be, and Axl tries way too hard on the vocals. His voice is just shot at this point. He cannot sing that strong as he used to be. Bland and awfully uninspired stuff. At number 7, we have Crosby, Stills and Nash, Live It Up. Live It Up is a pop album. It may sound catchy, but it is so badly cheesy, and that's the biggest problem that I have with this album. Crosby, Stills, Nash cannot do this direction of their career very well. Every time I listen to the tracks, I always think that they are immediately forgettable. When I have finished listening to this album, the only acoustic guitar track, Haven't We Lost Enough, is the only one that saves it, I guess, but it just doesn't make a big change of sound and expression from what I thought of this album. This is the same group that made fantastic albums like Deja Vu with Canadian artist Neil Young and their self-titled debut album, fantastic, one of the best vocal harmonies I've ever heard, and they came up with this. Also, the worst album cover of all time. At number 6, it is Emmure Slave to the Game. Now, I randomly decided to give this band a go with an open mind, and it's 32 minutes that I will never ever get back. Deathcore had never been a favorite genre of mine, but this album, I totally understand what they tried to do with this video game concept type of thing. Musically is really repetitive and so recycled at its best. It's nothing interesting at all, and even the lyrical content's just the same thing. Not only that I regarded it as the worst album of 2012, but I just think Emmure as a band cannot make music that is so listenable to my ears. They are still continuing to this day. At number 5, number 5 is from a band that I was really obsessed with. I still love the 90s era of this band, even though they've made a few albums that are pretty good, a few that are above average, but this is the only one that is the worst of the worst. It is The Path of Totality by Korn. Dubstep, Skrillex and Kill the Noise and others with Korn. It's an awful combination. If you love dubstep, cool, good on you. But dubstep is atrociously annoying and robotic, messy sounds of music that is nothing good for me to listen to. And I totally respect what Korn tried to do on this album, but it's nothing. It's nothing but garbage from beginning to end. And I'm glad that they've came back with better albums like The Paradigm Shift, which I think is probably one of Korn's best albums in a long while. So let's leave it at that. At number four is Bullet for My Valentine, Temper Temper. Good God. This has some of the laziest and most obnoxious moments I've ever heard on any album, period. And The Poison, Scream Aim Fire, strong sounding albums. Fever was above average, but it was a pretty good album. But Temper Temper, I don't really want to talk about this too much because this album is annoying, laughable. It's just a pathetic attempt. Recycled guitar riffs and moments of repeating the same song like Tears Don't Fall Part 2. Very, very awful lyrics. Does not gel. It is just a waste of time for me to sit through, and it's just trash from beginning to end. At number 3, this is the same band that I've just mentioned a few minutes ago, okay? This is Emmure again with Eternal Enemies. Not only that, Slave to the Game is in the list, but the reason why this album is really high in the list, it's not the music, which is nowhere near as a strong improvement. It's the lyrical content. The lyrical content about bringing a gun to school. And the worst one of the songs is about rape. These guys are grown men that shockingly still make money. The lyrical content is disgusting. It is so appalling. I cannot believe that this album is still existing on this planet. My God, do I really need to listen to this album ever again with one of the worst lyrics of all time? Honestly. And number two is Lou Reed, Metal Machine Music. Lou Reed has been a really big, worldwide influential star. I've never been a big fan of him, but Metal Machine Music, I actually gave this album another chance with an open mind. I put the album on YouTube, wearing my headphones, and it's an hour long, and I barely went through the first half. I've only listened to either 25 or 30 minutes of this album, but it's very screechy, eerie, and mind-numbingly headache-inducing sound of experimentation ruins it for me, and I just can't do it anymore. This is a completely disastrous experiment. Some Lou Reed fans would say that this is his best album, or the best album of all time, and you can say that, but it doesn't make me want to come back and listen to this album ever again. Avoid it, please. And number one is a tie between these two albums. It's a tie between Lulu by Lou Reed and Metallica and Corey Feldman, Angelic to the Core. Lulu. Again, like Metal Machine Music, I listened to this entire album with another chance. But the more it continued, the worse it got. I cannot believe how this biggest piece of abomination of a collaborative album is to this day. Frank Winnikin's lyrics, or poetry I should say, that were portrayed by Lou Reed, very, very disjointed. It's it's so uninspired, unfinished, and Lou Reed cannot sing the words at all on this entire album. The really long songs like Mistress Dread to Little Dog, Junior Dad, Pumping Blood, I actually skipped those songs before they went to the end because it's just so unbearable. And Metallica's contribution to this album is nowhere near that good either. It's okay instrumentation, started off pretty good at first, but it drags on and on and on and on and on endlessly. Too much repetition, no chemistry, no flavor, no excitement. This is not art for me. It may be art to you, but it's not for me. And Corey Feldman, Angelic to the Core, this is... I cannot express this whatsoever, because this is an actor that had appeared in films such as The Goonies and the fantastic Stand By Me. Great film. But Angelic to the Core is a 95-minute album. Angelic Funkadelic / Angelic Rockadelic. The music on this album is just so bad. Oh, difficult for me to describe it. The stupid lyrics. Corey cannot sing whatsoever. And with songs that sound very, very cheesy at that, but it's just it's a messy clusterfuck of an entire album. The pop elements, the rock elements, the funk elements, it's really, really, really unlistenable. And the production, pathetic. It's just torturous for me to listen to this album. He ruined the greatest John Lennon song of all time, in my opinion, Working Class Hero. That is the most insulting cover I've ever listened to from who I consider to be the greatest musician ever. Corey Feldman is an excuse as a musician. Please do not make any more of these albums, please. That's really all I gotta say. And thank God it's over. The top 10 worst albums of all time. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments below, and tell me which albums do you consider to be the worst of all time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.